They say that one day the devil decided to give up his work, so he announced that he wanted to sell his tools at a reasonable price. So the tools of his work, which included egotism, hatred, fear, anger, greed, jealousy, lust, power, etc., were on display. But one of these tools looked very old and worn out, and the devil was not willing to sell it for a cheap price. Someone asked him, "What is this expensive tool?" The devil said, "It is despair and depression." They asked, "Why is it so expensive?" The devil said, "Because this tool has been more effective for me than any other tool. Whenever my other tools become ineffective, it is only with this tool that I can open people's hearts and do my work. If I can make someone feel hopeless, discouraged, rejected, and lonely, I can do whatever I want with them. I put this tool on. I tried all the humans, and that's why it's so old." Next story. A little girl walked to and from school every day. Although the weather was not very good that morning and the sky was cloudy, the little girl walked to school as usual. In the afternoon, the weather worsened and there was a storm and severe lightning. The child's mother, worried that her daughter would be scared of the storm on her way home or that the lightning would bring trouble to her, decided to go after her daughter in her car. Hearing the sound of thunder and seeing lightning that tore the sky like a dagger, she hurriedly got into her car and drove to her daughter's school. Halfway through the road, she suddenly caught sight of her daughter, who was walking home as usual, but with every lightning strike in the sky, she would stop, look at the sky and smile, and this was repeated with every lightning strike. When the mother pulled up next to the little girl, she rolled down the window and asked her, "What are you doing? Why are you standing in the middle of the road?" The little girl replied, "I'm trying to make my face look pretty because God is taking pictures of me all the time. Let's remember that when we face the storms of life, God is with us, so let's not forget to smile." Next story.
Frogs. A group of frogs were traveling through the woods. Two of them fell into a deep pit. When the other frogs saw how deep the pit was, they told the two frogs that they were as good as dead. The two frogs ignored the comments and tried to jump up out of the pit with all their might. Finally, one of the frogs took heed to what the other frogs were saying and gave up. He fell down and died. The other frog continued to jump as hard as he could. Once again, the crowd of frogs yelled at him to stop the pain and just die. He jumped even harder and finally made it out. When he got out, the other frogs said, "Did you not hear us?" The frog explained to them that he was deaf. He thought they were encouraging him the entire time. This story teaches two lessons. There is power of life and death in the tongue. Encouraging word to someone who is down can lift them up and help them make it through the day. A destructive word to someone who is down can be what it takes to kill them. So, be careful of what you say.
Next story. Harry's feet. One of Harry's feet was bigger than the other. "I can never find boots and shoes for my feet," he said to his friend Dick. "Why don't you go to a shoemaker?" Dick said. "A good one can make you the right shoes." "I've never been to a shoemaker," Harry said. "Aren't they very expensive?" "No," Dick said, "some of them aren't. There's a good one in our village, and he's quite cheap. Here's his address." He wrote something on a piece of paper and gave it to Harry. Harry went to the shoemaker in Dick's village a few days later, and the shoemaker made him some shoes. Harry went to the shop again a week later and looked at the shoes. Then he said to the shoemaker angrily, "You're a silly man. I said, make one shoe bigger than the other, but you've made one smaller than the other." Next story. Mr. Robinson never went to a dentist. Mr. Robinson never went to a dentist because he was afraid. But then his teeth began hurting a lot, and he went to a dentist. The dentist did a lot of work in his mouth for a long time. On the last day Mr. Robinson said to him, "How much is all this work going to cost?" The dentist said, £25. But he did not ask him for the money. After a month, Mayor Robinson phoned the dentist and said, "You haven't asked me for any money for your work last month." "Oh," the dentist answered, "I never ask a gentleman for money." "Then how do you live?" Mr. Robinson asked. "Most gentlemen pay me quickly," the dentist said, "but some don't. I wait for my money for 2 months, and then I say, 'That man isn't a gentleman,' and then I ask him for my money." Next story. The lump of gold. Paul was a very rich man, but he never spent any of his money. He was scared that someone would steal it. He pretended to be poor and wore dirty old clothes. People laughed at him, but he didn't care. He only cared about his money. One day, he bought a big lump of gold. He hid it in a hole by a tree. Every night, he went to the hole to look at his treasure. He sat and he looked. "No one will ever find my gold," he said. But one night, a thief saw Paul looking at his gold. And when Paul went home, the thief picked up the lump of gold, slipped it into his bag and ran away. The next day, Paul went to look at his gold, but it wasn't there. It had disappeared. Paul cried and cried. He cried so loud that a wise old man heard him. He came to help. Paul told him the sad tale of the stolen lump of gold. "Don't worry," he said. "Get a big stone and put it in the hole by the tree." "What?" said Paul. "Why? What did you do with your lump of gold?" "I sat and looked at it every day," said Paul. "Exactly," said the wise old man. "You can do exactly the same with a stone." Paul listened, thought for a moment and then said, "Yes, you're right. I've been very silly. I don't need a lump of gold to be happy."